What ship is capable of carrying more cargo than any other in the world? It's called MSC Irina, a sea giant weighing an astonishing 4 million tons. This maritime giant is over 300 meters long and can stack containers up to 25 stories high. But how can such a large ship move and safely transport goods through some of the world's narrowest and most touristy waterways? Let's find out. History was made last March when MSC Irina and its twin ship MSC Loretto left the dry dock at the Yang shipyard. Built in just 144 days, these two ships are the first of their kind and the largest container ships ever to sail. With 4 more twin ships under construction, we'll be seeing these vessels more often. But how big are they? In terms of dimensions, MSC Irina and all subsequent ships in its class measure 400 meters long, 61 meters wide, and have a draft of 15 meters. The draft of a ship is the submerged part in the water. The deadweight is just over 240,000 tons without cargo. In comparison, U.S. aircraft carriers displace around 100,000 tons without cargo. However, the most obvious sign of Irina's enormity is the number of containers it can carry. In the world of maritime transport, the standard container is 6 meters long. The measure of how many containers a fully loaded ship can carry is in TEUs, 20-foot equivalent units. For Irina and its twin ships, it can carry an impressive 24,346 TEUs. But with so much cargo to haul, Irina has some tricks up its sleeve. MSC Irina is a ship that employs innovative technologies to enhance its transit. One of them is air lubrication on its hull, which involves expelling air bubbles through large openings to reduce friction with the water and increase speed. Another is the use of shaft generators that harness the energy from the main engines to generate electricity, saving fuel, and providing more power to onboard systems. These technologies make MSC Irina an impressive ship. Did you know that the way we transport goods today is very similar to what was used thousands of years ago? Before container shipping, ships loaded their holds with various types of containers: barrels, sacks, nets, cages, and boxes. These were the same containers manufacturers used to store their products. However, this system had a major drawback. It was slow and costly. Each ship had to be loaded and unloaded manually by specialized workers called stevedores, who had to arrange containers of different shapes and sizes. Loading a standard ship took about 8 hours. This inefficiency frustrated many in the shipping industry, but no one dared to change it. Until one day, a small carrier from New Jersey named Malcolm McLean had a revolutionary idea. Unlike many in the industry, Malcolm didn't start as a sailor, but as a truck driver. He wondered if it would be more practical to transport goods in containers rather than loose items. So, he decided to try it with an old US ship he had bought with his savings. Have you ever wondered how products you buy from the other side of the world reach you? The answer lies in containers, those enormous metal crates that revolutionized maritime transport. It all started with a ship named the Ideal X, the first to use containers in 1956. Its owner, Malcolm McLean, was a former truck driver who wanted to save time and money in loading and unloading ships. With containers, he reduced the cost from $1,565.83 per ton to just 16 cents. Thus began the era of containers, changing global trade. For a decade, ships adapted to carry containers on their decks. In 1968, the first ships designed specifically for this purpose appeared. They had more space and less unnecessary equipment. But this also meant that ports had to modify their facilities to load and unload containers. And how does the supply chain connecting manufacturers, buyers, and transportation companies work? How is it possible for a pair of jeans made in China to reach a store in New York? The journey of containers doesn't end at the port. Once blue jeans arrive from China, a truck takes them to the pier where a specialized crane awaits. The crane places the containers inside and on top of the ship, securing them with locks to prevent movement or falling, forming a solid wall. Additionally, workers use steel rods called lashing rods to anchor the first levels of containers to the ground. Thus, the captain of Irina can sail knowing that their cargo is protected against the strongest waves. Irina sets sail from Singapore to New York, a route it has taken many times. Its crew is experienced and has a pilot on board. The journey goes smoothly, except for passing through the Strait of Malacca, the world's most trafficked canal connecting Asia with the Middle East, Africa, and Europe. Irina is a huge ship, but its crew has sailed on smaller ones, as only the most experienced can serve on such a large vessel. However, despite the routine, the journey has its risks. Irina faces a storm in the Indian Ocean on its way to the Suez Canal. Unlike sailors of yore, today's navigators have a significant advantage. Meteorological information. The captain and navigator receive daily weather reports. Additionally, the company sends updates and advises on how to avoid areas of bad weather. But this doesn't mean ships can dodge every storm. Irina has to deviate a bit, but its crew has to prepare the ship to withstand the storm. The ship's engineer ensures it has the proper stability and transfers fuel and water to different tanks to prevent the ship from tilting. With all these precautions, the ship weathers the storm without problems and heads to the Suez Canal. Arriving on time at the meeting point with the pilot is crucial, as ships cannot overtake or delay their passage. This means the bridge team has to ensure a timely arrival, as time is money in the shipping industry. After passing through the Suez, the ship sails to Barcelona, Spain. The ship is so large that it cannot dock at just any port. With a draft of almost 15 meters and enormous length, there are very few docks worldwide where it can moor. But Barcelona is one of them. About 24 European ports have upgraded facilities to accommodate these giants. Once in port, the ship unloads part of its cargo and takes on more containers. This is because shipping companies want to make as much money as possible on each trip, and can schedule intermediate stops to drop off and pick up more goods. After setting sail again, the ship arrives at the port of New York, where another carrier takes care of empty containers and takes them to a warehouse. The company then sends a truck to deliver the blue jeans to the store. But while container capacity seems unlimited, a problem threatens its future. How do we transport the goods we consume from the remotest places on the planet? The answer lies in containers, those enormous metal crates that revolutionized maritime transport. But behind this revolution are two giants that control the market, Maersk and MSC. Together they transport over a third of all the world's goods. But this situation has its risks. In 2015, the two companies signed an agreement called 2M, allowing them to cooperate and divide the market without merging. The two companies adopted different strategies. Maersk focused on improving its door-to-door delivery service by investing in trucks and ports. MSC focused on increasing its cargo volume by buying and building larger ships. Container shipping faces a major challenge: port congestion. During the COVID-19 pandemic, ports worldwide experienced historic delays as ships attempted to dock but couldn't. In the United States, the most severe cases occurred at the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach, handling 40% of all goods entering the country. However, at one point, these two ports had over 100 anchored ships waiting to enter. Although the congestion reduced from 100 to several dozen and then to almost zero, what caused this problem? While some news agencies blamed the port and factory, the truth is more complex. The COVID-19 pandemic caused a crisis in container shipping, affecting the global economy. US ports were overwhelmed by the high demand for products imported from Asia, but they lacked the capacity and personnel to unload the ships. Dock workers and truckers were affected by COVID and President Biden's measures to extend working hours. Furthermore, the shipping industry faced a shortage of raw materials and electronic components, such as chips for new cars, which came from Taiwan. The trend of using larger ships to reduce costs and increase profits also heightened the vulnerability of the supply chain, as few ports could accommodate them. If the shipping industry does not collaborate with governments to improve infrastructure and port resources, a more significant bottleneck than the pandemic could recur.